Hey everyone, and welcome back. I'm going to be reviewing the e.l.f. Aqua Beauty eyeshadow palettes today, and I'm going to do this similar to how I do my other videos when I review an eyeshadow palette. I'll show you guys the swatches and I'll give you guys my thoughts on the palettes, but I'll also give you guys a tutorial so you guys can see how the eyeshadows work in action. I ended up using just one of the palettes. I was going to use both, but then I ended up going for the one in Island Breeze. I think I want to start off with the tutorial, and then I will leave you guys a timestamp for the review down in the description bars. Hope you guys enjoy this video. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll jump right into the tutorial. Okay, so I'm gonna start off by priming my eyelids with this Bella Pierre eyeshadow base. I needed to prime my eyelids because I feel like these shadows really crease on my lids. Then I'm going to start off by using the Chartreuse Gold shade. I first applied it with a brush, but it really wasn't showing up on my lids at all, so I went in with my fingers and there is the color payoff. So I'm just going to apply this to the inner half of my eye, and then I'm taking this kind of peachy pink shade. It's like a satin matte finish, and I'm going to sweep this into my crease. I don't feel like it did anything, so I went in with this shade that's a little bit darker and more taupe, but again, I feel like it wasn't really showing up on my crease that much. I don't know, am I blind? I just can't see it. So then I went in with this brown shade, and now I could finally get some color payoff into my crease. This is a really pretty like transition brown shade. Then I went into the cranberry shade. I'm going to apply this with my finger to start, and I'm just going to apply this to the outer half of my eye. I definitely recommend using your fingers to apply these shadows. I do not think they pick up very well with a brush, especially the really metallic shades, but I am going to dip my brush into the cranberry shade just to kind of blend out the edges. Then I'm going to go over it again with my finger to deepen it up, and then blend and deepen it up. It's just a little bit of a cycle. These are a little bit trickier to blend. I'm going to re-intensify the chartreuse with my finger and just pack that on to the inner half of my lid. I'm also going to intensify the cranberry a little bit, and then I'm going to take my pinky and dip it into this shimmer shade. I don't like it. It's really chunky. It's got weird glitters in it, so I wouldn't recommend. I just applied some mascara, lashes, and eyeliner. Then for foundation, I'm going to be mixing my L'Oreal Pro Matte and my L'Oreal Pro Glow. I'll list shade names and stuff down below. To blend that in, I'm going to be using my e.l.f. Ultimate Blending Brush. And then for concealer, I'm going to take my LA Girl Pro Conceal Concealer. This is in the shade Natural. And I'm going to take my favorite little brush. This is the Sephora Pro Airbrush. And I'm going to blend out my concealer with this brush. This is such a soft and fluffy brush, and I feel like it just blends out my concealer so nicely. I can't stop using it. I love it. It's such a nice brush. I'm going to set my under eyes with my Maybelline Fit Me powder, and I'm going to use that same Sephora brush, but I actually don't like how it applies powder. I felt like I was skipping things and it just wasn't applying powder the way I wanted, so I went in with my Real Techniques setting brush and I just reapplied that powder right on top. Then I'm taking my Rimmel contouring palette. I'm going to start with that contour shade, and I'm going to contour my face. Always got to get the jawline. I love contouring my jawline. I'm going to apply the blush to the apples of my cheeks and sweeping backwards. And then I'm going to apply the highlighter that came in that contouring kit as well. And then I'm going to go back in and finish my eyes and taking that mid-tone brown, sweeping that on my lower lash line. And then I'm taking the cranberry shade and just applying that to the outer half of my lower lash line. I'm going to take some of that chartreuse, with this little shader brush from NYX, and I'm going to apply this to the inner half of my lower lash line. I'm just going to apply that same eyeliner I was using earlier to my waterline, and I'm going to smudge it out with no product on the brush. I'm just going to smudge out the eyeliner. The mascara I'm using is the CoverGirl Supersizer Fibers, and then the lip I went with is the NYX Lip Lingerie in the shade Seduction. And that completes this look. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you want to see my review, keep on watching. Okay, so if you're at this part of the video, that means you're here for the review and the swatches on the new e.l.f. Aqua Beauty Cushion Eyeshadow Palettes. These palettes came out a while ago. I think e.l.f. launched them for their summer collection, or was it their spring collection? I'm not entirely sure, but they have been out for a while, and I have had a pretty decent amount of time to test these out for you guys. So they have two different shades. They have one called Island Breeze, which is full of more warmer tone shades, and they also have one called Cool Mist, which is for those cooler tones. This is obviously part of e.l.f.'s Aqua Beauty line, which I'm actually a huge fan of. I really like their cushion or their Aqua Beauty blush and bronzer duos, and I also like their Aqua Primer Mist. And they released these, which are a very similar formula to the blush and bronzer duos. They're like a squishy, cushiony texture. They sort of feel wet when you touch them, but then they sort of dry down as well to a powder finish. Very similar in texture to the blush and bronzer duos. I actually think it's such a cool formula. I think e.l.f. is always coming out with really innovative and cool formulas, but overall, I don't think I'm such a fan of these palettes. To start, I feel like there is a lot of inconsistency within the actual palettes. Some of the shades are a lot creamier and more wet-like, while others are quite dry, and you don't really get a lot of pigmentation out of those ones. So within the actual palette, the different shades are pretty inconsistent, and I actually find these pretty hard to work with. They do apply best with your fingers, so I would recommend you start by applying the shades to your lid or into your crease with your finger, because that's how you get the most pigmentation out of these. But even with my finger, I feel like it just lacks something. Like there's just something missing in the pigmentation with these. They look really bright and pretty, and they even look nice when you swatch them, but then when you apply them to your eyes, it's just not as intense. e.l.f. did come out with a brush that you're supposed to use in conjunction with these palettes. This is like their dual-ended Aqua Beauty eye brush. I actually think this does work really well with these shadows. The fluffy end of the brush is pretty dense, so it blends out the creams really nicely, and then you do get a pencil end, which is helpful for the lower lash line. If you have something like the Real Techniques domed eyeshadow brush, I feel like this would work as well. Any type of like denser eyeshadow brush. So they are a little bit trickier to work with. I definitely don't reach for them in the morning because I don't want to spend the effort trying to get the colors to blend and pop on my eyes. I do prefer powder eyeshadows over these cushiony textures. The other thing that I'm not such a fan of with these eyeshadows is that they do crease on my eyelids. I don't really know if they claim to be crease proof, but definitely on my lids, they do crease by the end of the day. So that's just something to be aware of. You probably want to use some sort of eyeshadow primer to prevent creasing. Those are kind of my thoughts on the palette. Definitely not my favorite formula out there, but I do think if you spend some time working with these, you can create some really pretty looks. The color selection is really nice. I love the ones in the Cool Mist palette. They have a really pretty duochrome, like blue brown shade, and a really, really intense, vibrant cobalt blue, and also pretty teal. And even in the Island Mist one, you get a really cool, like chartreuse gold shade, a nice rich cranberry, and a bunch of pretty like mid-tone shades as well. So I do like the shade selections. I just wish these palettes worked a little bit easier. I'm gonna continue to use them. I just feel like I need to practice with them a little bit. So those are my thoughts on the new e.l.f. Aqua Beauty eyeshadow palettes. I hope you guys found this review and tutorial helpful. I really like the idea of these cushion cream to powder eyeshadows. I think it's such a cool idea. Again, they're not my favorite formula. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe if you would like to see more videos, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!